Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. By the way, you can join us in the Freedom Zone for next to nothing. Click this button right here under any title of my YouTube videos or down in the description box. Join us on Patreon. Same price, two different places, but the same material, whatever suits you best. But let me just tell you, it's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month, and you get every single daily video with 0 Google ads. It's worth the price of admission. But today, you're going to want to come in there today, because today I'm going to reveal for you the inverse matrix. Oh yes, the global elite and their plan. And I tell you, it is scary, but we need to know it. You need to know it. It's not crypto related, but it all ties in, because, you know, this blockchain stuff, it could be very bad depending who's the leader of your particular country. They could use it for good or they could use it for bad. Look at China. Anyway, join us in the Freedom Zone. You're going to want to learn about it. Let's take a look at this really quickly. $2.76 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.8%. 84,700 plus for Bitcoin. Some would say a blue light special. $1,500 right here. It wants to be 1,600 Ethereum. XRP number 4 spots, $2.11. It's up 0.9 on the 24. It's up 5.6 on the 7-day. Let's take a look at the range of price. Fiat links back working again, ranging between 206 and 212. We're at the top side of that range. We'll keep an eye on it. I want to remind you that take a look at who's going to be here at XRP Las Vegas in 42 days. Oh, yes. Let's take a look at it. Jake Boyle from Caleb and Brown, Paul Unterberg, Uphold, Anthony Johnson, Uphold, Robin O'Connell, CEO of the enterprise side of Uphold, Rox Park, Gearin Labs, the list goes on. Back here to Jake Boyle. Caleb and Brown is a new platform that we have found, and it's been around for a while, but we have found that it has a couple things that digital asset investor and myself absolutely love, and I am now using it, and I absolutely love it. In fact, I have a meeting with my personal rep. That's right. Just like in the traditional stock market, you want to call your broker and tell them, sell everything, hold it, don't sell till 450, sell 5,000 XRP at $2. They got it all. You can call and set up a rep. And let me tell you another little fun fact about it. You can contact your rep. Listen, having a human being to talk to is amazing for a lot of reasons. But let me just give one example. Okay. One, exchanges freeze up when bull runs. You could have prices worked out, limits and everything set with your real life broker, so you know you didn't make a mistake in doing it, and you know it's going to happen regardless of what happens to other crypto exchanges, because you talk to the rep and you put it all in. Now, here's the other part of this too that's really, really cool. I love this. When talking to my rep told me, I said, I really want to make sure that my assets are safe. I said, I used to be on another platform where you could have 48 hours, you had a video you had to make, and then you met with a real person to make sure it was really you. He said, we can build all that into your requirements. I was like, what? Yes. He said, yeah, we can absolutely put that in your instructions, so any broker dealing with you understands that you want to have a live Zoom call to make sure you're alive, you're not under duress before you sell your asset. So if I was hacked, and that was one of the stipulations I put to my account, that would have to happen. And that would make sure that no one could hack my account. And even if they did, they'd have to have me on a video making sure they could do it. So just think about that extra level of protection and communication that comes with Caleb and Brown. It is remarkable. XRPwealth589.com and get started. XRPwealth589.com. We came up with a simple domain to help you remember in case you're driving your car or eating lunch. You don't have time to remember it. Just remember XRPwealth589.com. com. Let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. So much good stuff about Caleb and Brown. We'll keep showing you new aspects of why they're amazing. Binance CEO Richard Tang says cryptocurrency exchange is now advising multiple governments on crypto regulations and national Bitcoin reserves. Oh, well, how will we acquire that crypto? We're going to get into it. Well, let's listen to this because this gentleman is right. Now, he's speaking from a Bitcoin perspective pretty much solely here, but think of the entire space while he's painting this picture.
Yeah, you definitely didn't have any of the catalysts we have now. You didn't have nation states adopting. You didn't have talk of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You don't have presidents talking about it. You don't have countries adopting it. And you don't have ETFs. You didn't have ETFs back then. So the game has completely changed. So going back to the predictions, I think everyone wants to play it safe and be the reasonable guy. We'll pick something safe, right? It's up there and it's reasonable. But the thing you have to look at is when you get to 200, close your eyes and imagine Bitcoin is 200 now. What's the world look like? It's a very different world. I mean, 2 trillion, 4 trillion. Now let's say Bitcoin is at 500K. Again, imagine the world. What does it look like? Would people be selling? So at 500, we're almost halfway to gold market cap. And I think at that point, I call it the Veblen threshold. So, Veblen goods, it's the more expensive it is, the more people want it. Luxury, LV bags, Lambos, whatever. Yeah. You definitely didn't have any of the...
There you have it. I think it's a great thought exercise. Now, I think it could be really expounded across other assets and not just Bitcoin, but I think for the thought exercise, it's perfect. And I think he makes a fantastic point. It is different this time. I think we're going to look at proof that XRP is in fact a sleeping giant. We'll get to it here, but let's look at this very quickly here from Galaxy Digital, who basically thinks the U.S. government could sell the altcoins in its possession to buy Bitcoin. Well, that's interesting.
Times did you have to recite that before you went to bed at night?
Which specifically prohibited the government from selling Bitcoin and ordered Commerce and Treasury to find out budget neutral ways to buy Bitcoin, while simultaneously prohibiting them from buying altcoins and leaving the management up to those departments for altcoins. I think a lot of progress has been made. They were 30 days after that order supposed to have delivered to the White House and the Presidential Working Group an accounting of the government's Bitcoin. We think that accounting has been delivered. We haven't found out yet what the accounting says, but it seems like they're making progress, and you've got Treasury Secretary Bessent literally saying Bitcoin is now becoming a store of value. You've got a drumbeat from Bo Hines and David Sachs, and it just seems plausible at this point they'll buy something. There will be a buy. That's the extent of which I'm...
Where do you think they'll get the money to buy? Because they've been clear with the American people that tax dollars will not be spent to buy digital assets.
Yeah, budget.
Which is the right approach, no doubt about it.
Budget neutral is hard. In a lot of ways, budget neutral is not a real thing. I feel like if cash goes into the general treasury, there's a lot of claims on that cash, let alone reducing the deficit, which the government has made a big point. So to then use any cash to do that. But what you could do is the altcoins that are in the sell-only digital asset stockpile, you could sell some of those for Bitcoin.
There's an opportunity cost in doing that, though. You're essentially having to convince, maybe you don't have to convince anyone, but you're saying, okay, this money that we're getting as a result of selling these assets is best used, in our view, by buying Bitcoin.
Agreed. And I think that's why one of the elegant ways is to take some altcoin or something in that stockpile, which, let's be frank, the government and Congress barely even know that the government possesses. Right? It's not like some big pile of money everyone's aware of and wants their piece of. But also, to be specific, you could sell an altcoin in an altcoin BTC pair and never touch cash at all. No cash ever has to flow into the general treasury. Could be an easier way to get to a promises made, promises kept on the SBR.
You think?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's not lose sight of the fact that Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasurer, said they're starting with Bitcoin. That's why it's called a strategic Bitcoin reserve. There will be others. He said that. But I like the point the digital asset investor makes right here. Or how about you could sell Bitcoin, which is up 37% on the year, to buy XRP, which is up 327% on the year. He did. And I know I did. Oh, we're not done yet. Again, I think Simon McLaughlin got it right yesterday. The sleeping giant called finance is moving. And given the U.S.'s change, of course, it doesn't look like the crypto button will be put on ice this time. Innovation is coming. Yes, it is. Remember when Brad Garlinghouse said years ago, I think about Ripple is to cross-border payments as Amazon is to books? And then EastNet's Payment Safe, we covered the video, how they've tied in Ripple and Swift's technology all together so the entire financial system can access it. Remember that? Yeah. Remember this? You haven't seen this. Shout out to Darren Moore for this. Give him a follow. Candice Mesk, a blockchain enabler for local banks, speaks about Ripple, and boy, does she.
That it is a viable option, but what are your thoughts about Ripple and XRP being used as a cross-border remittance solution?
I've started looking at that solution maybe about a year ago. I was actually doing research into what could disrupt retail forex, as an example, and I had a look at this, and I was quite impressed by it. And I see that it's only grown since I first had a look at it. So I think it's certainly a very promising solution. Ripple as a company has. This is one of their products. They do other things as well. They acquired a business called Motoko a couple of years back that does institutional custody of digital assets. So they've certainly, I think, got a great reputation for being a trusted blockchain technology business. And of course, they have their own cryptocurrency, XRP, which has been around a number of years. I don't know if it's in the top 10, but I think it might be. So their payments network is a very interesting concept. So the idea is it's an alternative to a SWIFT, but built on distributed ledger technology, which provides us transparency, speed, and quite a lot of cost efficiency. So instead of using SWIFT, and banks, when they have SWIFT, they have these funds they hold on behalf of one another called nostros and vostros, right? That wouldn't need to exist anymore. If XRP, for example, was used to bridge two fiat currencies on either side. So one bank issues the instruction to Ripple, Ripple swaps that fiat into XRP, swaps it to fiat on the other side, and boom, the transaction's done in a matter of milliseconds, and it costs like next to nothing. It's brilliant. What it requires, though, to be really, really successful is to have more participants on it. So last time I checked, it had around 300 financial institutions participating on RippleNet for their payments optimization, I guess. That compared to SWIFT is quite small. SWIFT has got many, many thousands of participating institutions. So once more adopters are on board, and adopters are not individual users here, they're businesses, they're financial institutions. When we see more of them on board, we'll see this thing grow at an exponential pace.
It's pretty remarkable. And she goes on and on and on. She gets it. She gets it. And this is a blockchain enabler for local banks. I'm super excited. We got more. This is Nick, who is a co-founder to Coin Bureau, which have never been a fan of XRP. Nick also comes from Goldman Sachs before he started Coin Bureau, if my memory serves me correctly. He says, firstly, in regards to the acquisition of Hidden Road, he says, firstly, if you're not familiar with Hidden Road, it's a prime broker, basically a one-stop shop for big institutions to trade. It offers clearing, lending, trade execution across foreign exchange, crypto, derivatives, and even fixed income. In other words, it bridges traditional finance and crypto under one roof. Yeah, Nick's right. It does. Nick from Coin Bureau. And it must break his heart to be that honest and candid. Would it make a nice starter pack of XRP for the digital asset stockpile? knowing that Brad Garlinghouse has mentioned they even discussed paying their $50 million fine in XRP? Wouldn't it? Adding 25 million into the digital asset stockpile, that would be amazing. But you know, I'm asking this question because we know from Susan in the video that the growth is going to be exponential. Ripple and what they do and offering of XRP is clearly understood by the banks and the blockchain enablers. Why wouldn't the U.S. collect the fine from the SEC in XRP? And how will, as I asked earlier, will the U.S. government resolve attaining and acquiring digital assets like Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, ADA, and others? Well, Smoke Dog highlights here the Bank of International Settlements and Stellar and Green Bond tokenization. What is it? A prototype for green bond tokenization by the Liberty Consortium. A green bond asset itself is tracked on the Stellar ledger. So final clearing and settlement of the asset for executed trades is conducted in the Liberty prototype. This allows the platform to retain the instant settlement functionality within Stellar, greatly reducing the cost and risk of trading for end users. Through Project Genesis, the Stellar network being highlighted here for this green bond issuance. But what's interesting about this is that if you look at this, and I love this whole idea because obviously we've heard about green bonds before, right? But I'm expanding on the idea of green bonds and the idea of having these bond issuance and a bond data taxonomy. That not only would you issue bonds because they're more climate friendly and they're more energy efficient, right? I get all of that. But why not just instead issue digital asset bonds? How the U.S. should acquire digital assets like Bitcoin, XRP, ADA, and Solana, and others without costing the taxpayers lost revenue. Many ideas have been floated as to how the U.S. government will acquire digital assets for its strategic reserve and digital asset stockpile. One, use tariff money, Bo Hines has suggested. Regardless of being a new tax collection, it takes tax dollars away from U.S. taxpayers, so I don't like it. Number two, it's been floated by Bo Hines and others that to sell U.S. gold reserves to acquire Bitcoin. I believe this would be a terrible idea because gold is God's money, not software code written by a man. Gold has always underpinned the confidence of any monetary shift or transition in history. Three, why don't we do this? Why don't we issue digital asset bonds for Bitcoin, XRP, and others? This doesn't take from the taxpayer, but instead empowers the taxpayer and the U.S. government to earn together. Think wartime bonds. This is where I'm at. This is an amazing time that we're in. Think of where we're at here. We could see legislation opening up or regulation, whatever it would take, to introduce a new bond issuance for the cryptocurrencies the U.S. government wants to attain. And just like selling wartime bonds, they could acquire the assets necessary, empowering the people to participate and giving the U.S. government a new product to offer that could in turn, over time, help to facilitate knocking down the U.S. debt. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We're going into the freedom zone. Oh boy, you're going to want to join us. The inverse matrix, ladies and gentlemen. You need to see this. I hope you will join us. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Come on in. All right, welcome back. Let's get into this.